Welcome, 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 and thank you for spending some of your time with us. My name is Tina Rosenquist, and this is Knowledge for Wellness. And this show is to better inform you, because when you know more, you are empowered to make better decisions for yourself and your loved one for a better quality of life. And knowledge is power, and today's topic is on Lyme's awareness. And I'm delighted to present Dr. Betty Maloney. She's from Wyoming, Minnesota. Welcome, Dr. Betty.
Thank you for having me, Tina. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Oh, and we're so gracious that you could come and inform my viewers and make them more aware about Lyme's. This is very, very pertinent to those of us that live in Minnesota because we are one of the higher states for Lyme's. And of course, your first time being on Knowledge for Wellness as well. And we'd like for you to talk about your love, your passion, and why you decided to go into this profession.
Oh, I'm happy to do that. I'm a family physician,
Okay.
and I just love seeing the gamut of patients throughout their lifetime because I think it really makes for an interesting working day. But in the last few years, I became very aware of the presence of Lyme disease in the local community where I live, but throughout the state, and how little was known or talked about Lyme, especially among physicians. And so I decided to really dig in here and try to make some headway so that we can reduce the amount of Lyme in our state.
Yes, that would be so great. And even though a lot of people may not even be aware that Lyme's exist, what is it that you want to throw out to my viewers that they should know about Lyme's disease?
Well, I'd like your viewers to know everything.
Yes, that would be the perfect word.
But I think perhaps the first is just to know that we live in a very high-risk area for Lyme disease. And many of our ticks, and these are the deer ticks, carry the bacteria that causes Lyme disease.
Yes.
And Lyme, being a bacterial infection, requires antibiotics for people to be treated. And so I want people to know that. And perhaps first and foremost, I want them to know how to avoid having Lyme disease. Because if they don't get it, they don't have to worry about the rest.
And Knowledge for Wellness is also a lot about awareness and also being more preventative.
Great, great. And you know, if you're going to do prevention well, you need to know a little bit of facts, especially about the deer ticks.
Yes.
Because that's the, we call them vectors. It's not really an insect, it's in the spider family. But that's what gives us Lyme disease. They carry the bacteria, and if they bite us and stay attached for 24 hours or more, then they can pass that bacteria to us. But I like to remind viewers that there's all sorts of ticks out there. And in Minnesota, the most common is what we call the wood tick, and it's known as the American dog tick. That tick does not carry Lyme disease.
Okay.
But the tiny, tiny deer tick, which is the size of a poppy seed, that is the bug that we have to worry about.
Okay. And the animal that carries that, I understand, are deer. And that's where we gave it to the deer tick.
Well, you know, that's true that the ticks like to live on deer, but it turns out they actually like mice better.
Oh.
And they also will jump on a chipmunk or a squirrel. They're really not picky. And our dogs, of course, get them, and horses. You know, I've just recently become aware of what a significant problem Lyme disease is for owners of horses.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
It is, and of course, if the horses are getting it, then we worry about the people riding those horses.
Yes.
And so Lyme is one of those illnesses, it's kind of under everyone's radar, but it really affects a large number of people.
Right. And those who walk in the woods, I know because a lot of people are finding out that their dogs are actually getting Lyme's. So the scenario would be, well, if the actual dog has it, then there's a potential that the owner would also have it because you walk with your dog.
Exactly. You have the same exposure risks. And exposure risk is a really important concept for people to understand, because some areas your risk of running into that deer tick are going to be much higher than other areas.
Sure.
If you're down at the IDS in Minneapolis, I don't think there's going to be a lot of deer ticks on the sidewalks.
Exactly.
But if you're at William O'Brien State Park, that's another story.
Sure.
And not only do pets go where we go, but pets can bring those ticks indoors. And it's really hard to do a tick check on a golden retriever. And so part of prevention is doing the things that you need to do for your pets so that the ticks won't be attracted to them, whether it's, the tick collars or Frontline or any of those products.
Okay.
And the veterinarians are very supportive of doing prevention for pets.
Yeah. And I know there's also some guidelines also for people to wear boots, tie them, and wear your socks over your pants when you're going into the forest, and a few other preventative measures as well.
Those are all good points, and I think the one that doesn't get talked about enough is treating your clothes.
Oh, okay.
There's an insecticide called permethrin, and it comes under a bunch of brand names, and you can find it at the outdoor stores. And that is a true insecticide, and so you treat your clothing, and it will bond to the fabric, so it's not going to rub off on you.
Okay.
But when the ticks touch that, it will kill them.
Oh, okay.
And the neat thing about permethrin is it is durable, so it will last several weeks and even through several washings.
Oh, okay.
So especially if you know that I'm going to be out in the woods, if you know that you're going to wear the same clothing each time you go, then you only have to treat one set of clothing.
Sure.
The other thing, though, I like to remind people is that in our area of the state, they might be at highest risk for getting Lyme disease in their own backyard.
Okay.
Especially if their home is in a neighborhood that's kind of been carved out of a woods. That is really the highest risk area for Lyme disease, because a lot of the little creatures that come closer to our homes will have the ticks on them.
Right.
And so then I want those people to clean up the leaf litter in their yards, to make sure that their wood piles are orderly, because what we don't want to do is give mice a place to hide out.
Yes.
And don't feed deer.
Yes.
And not only not the salt licks, not the deer food, but in the summer, you should really consider not using hostas, because they're kind of like a salad bar for deer.
Yes.
And you can go online. Connecticut has a wonderful handbook on landscaping for Lyme disease.
Oh.
And it talks about plants that won't attract deer. And so all of these things are part of Lyme prevention.
Right. And that's such great knowledge to teach our viewers to be a little bit more preventative.
Oh, yeah.
Because actually we were, in my area, they also had to put out in one of the flyers, do not feed the deer. And they are cute animals and they are adorable, but yet when you look at what they carry, it makes you a little leery to know that, a child could get the Lymes. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of like, if you knew that you were walking into trouble, you'd take precautions.
Yes.
But when we have all these deer going through neighborhoods, because some of our neighbors are inviting them in, we can't always know that we're in a hot spot. And so it really is best not to invite trouble in the door, so to speak.
Well, and in the wintertime, too, people are concerned that the deer are going to starve. Well, that's a natural process. And that's how it was, with the actual deer losing or dying during the wintertime to keep the population of deer down as well.
Oh, absolutely. And there are more deer in the state now than 100 years ago.
Yes.
So people are tenderhearted, I think, about animals. And deer, bless Bambi's soul, has done a lot to make people admire deer. But I don't want them to worry that deer are going to go away. I mean, we've got plenty of deer, and we'll have plenty of deer. So I think that you're right. Let that nature take care of that.
Yeah, it's normal course as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.